Here we go. Let's get Sports Center off the TV. Hey, everybody. How are you? Welcome, 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 welcome. It's that time again. 6:30, Wednesday night. A little overcast, but rain does nothing but wash away and replenish it. So it's all right with us. This is Through the Eyes of Others. Aaron and Lisa Kaye here to just share conversation, let you into our world, and hopefully you're doing the same with us. You know how it is. We want to have conversations about emotional residue that people are experiencing as a result of just watching real life being lived right in front of us, right? We've talked a lot over the last year with Through the Eyes topic on vicarious trauma. We'll touch some of that as we go. Lisa and I spent a month away just revamping and refreshing and rebooting. And what we want to be able to do with our Through the Eyes is just truly listen to the stories of the guest, to have the conversations that allow us to see life through the eyes of other people. Always sharing that when we only see life through our eyes, we have a distorted view of life. And so until we are able to combine and intercourse what we see and what we feel and what we experience with what others see and what they feel and what they experience, we have this jaded view of life that it only looks like this, when in reality it looks like this. And so tonight we have a guest that I truly call a brother and a friend, Brother Adam Owensby. He'll be on, and we'll be talking with Adam about several things. In a few, we'll introduce Adam and just dig in. But right now, I want to bring in my sidekick, partner in crime, my co-director, co-host, Lisa Kaye. Lisa Kaye, what's going on with you on this wonderful, wonderful Wednesday?
Well, it is a wonderful Wednesday, and I'm excited. I'm always excited on Wednesday. This is my favorite. We are on this.
This your favorite?
This is my favorite. We do a lot of these classes or conversations all week long. But this is truly my favorite and has been. I don't know when we started doing Through the Eyes, but we truly have learned a lot ourselves, as well as got to meet some amazing people. In a way, we learn things that we didn't even know, but also to be able to step out of our own lives and try really hard to understand their steps and how life looks through their eyes, whether it's through their career, their lived experience, their family life, whatever it is that they're sharing, to truly be able to see and to consider new possibilities and ideas. So I'm real excited about tonight. One of my favorite places to be is Recovery Court. And in fact, I'm not leaving. I'll just keep showing up, even if they take me out of there. It truly, I wish every county, state in the world could watch and model what's going on in Mecklenburg County around recovery. And it's come a long way, and I truly honor being there. Our guest is someone new to me. I've heard tons about him. I feel like I know him in so many levels because everybody talks about Mr. Adam, and there's a reason why. He is not just anything. He's Mr. Adam, and he brings a different perspective to his job and his life and his worldview. He can work for PRN.
I think he does sometimes.
He's definitely one of us, and he loves what we do, but we also love what he does as well. So I'm real excited tonight. Just a reminder to everybody on, Miss Karen is on with us, one of our PRN recovery champions, as well as she's been a part of recovery and the courts, and she works with us, and she chimes in and supports all of what we're doing. And welcome, Karen. So those of you who are out there, we'd love to hear from you tonight. Just keep us in, let us know what you're thinking. If you have questions for our guest or for us, please don't hesitate. Miss Ariel's on saying hello to her family. So yeah, we're excited to share this to your social platforms, YouTube, Facebook, whatever you use. Keep it going. You don't want the people you care about to miss tonight. I think tonight will be a very unique night for Through the Eyes of Others.
Hey, thank you so much, Lisa Kaye. Um, just to set up my friend, and I have under here it says attorney and friend, right? This is my brother, and I want to just set it up this way. I've had the privilege over the last 7 years to serve one way or another in the recovery step courts of Charlotte, Mecklenburg, being able to lead the work of peer support in all of the recovery courts. I've had the privilege of serving in each of the recovery courts, even when we had a presence in youth court. In that time, I've just met some wonderful people. As a black man in America, I hate court. I despise court. It's just set up for black people to fail. I will never change that opinion. However, step court, recovery court, I fell in love with recovery court because of how recovery court is set up with so many different voices, gifts, and talents at the table. We have the legal team, prosecutors, and we have public defenders, we have judges, we have treatment providers, we have peer support specialists, we have probation officers, we have community activists. There are so many people who sit at the table, and that is inclusive of people with lived experience, people who have been through and who understand in so many different ways. And because of that, and because the court has taken the time to invest in such a way that case coordinators and those who are on court staffs not only interact, but to be able to make vitally important, the lives of the people who decisions are made about them every day. I've always been so impressed to the point that I can actually say I love recovery court. One of the people that represent that love that I have for recovery court is Adam Owensby. Adam and I have had so many conversations. We've teamed up. I joked with him a little earlier, but it wasn't really a joke. At one point, they're going to regret the fact that they brought us together, because advocating for the marginalized, advocating for the people who have no voice, advocating for those who the system is designed to shut down. I have watched Adam stand in opposition, right? I've watched him stand with opposition facing him to be a sole voice at times to say, we've got to do something different. And so, Adam, I love you. I am so happy that you came on tonight. Thank you for hanging out with us, brother. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Those are kind words from all of you. It's a big honor for me to be here. Big privilege. Happy to do it. Happy to talk about everything. I just want to jump in now, but I'll wait. I'm sure you have some questions or will lead things in. When you asked me to do it, it lifted my day a little bit, because anytime I have a chance, I feel like to talk to people about these topics is a good day, just because we don't always get to see the inner workings, and for those of us that do this stuff regularly, it can, you kind of can feel both hopeless and a little bit on the inside track, and you just don't know how it's getting out and how other people are viewing it, or if they even know. So I'm excited to be here tonight.
Thank you so much. And one day, Lisa Kaye, we're going to figure this out from a technical standpoint, where Adam's name can be over Adam's picture, right? So everybody, I'm not Adam. Adam's the other guy, but he's our guy. And I meant when I said attorney and friend. And so the invitation was extended to you to be able to come on and let us see life through your eyes and the work that you do, but also just a friend of the people and a friend of mine. So, good brother, I want to start with this as we dig in. Adam, how long have you been an attorney? And at what point did you say that this was the direction you wanted to take your life in?
Yeah, so I've been an attorney since 2013. That's when I took the bar exam in North Carolina. And so that's that, almost 8 years, 9 years. And I decided, it's a complicated question, because I guess the short answer is, in my mid-20s, I decided, that law school might ultimately be the most efficient path to having a job where I can give back to other people. I just thought that I knew that's what I wanted to do, and I knew I wanted to work in public service, and I knew that I wanted to be involved, but I just didn't know exactly how that was going to look. And then, slowly over the course of undergraduate college, it just kept coming back to indigent defense, frankly. I mean, so that sort of crystallized sometime in my undergraduate studies near the end.
When you came into law as a career, did you see yourself doing what you do now? Was there some other dreams and hopes, or was there another view, or did you actually see yourself doing what you do now?
It was risky on my part, but it was exactly this, like literally this job. I had a friend who I knew, who's now a judge here in Mecklenburg County, who was at the time in this office, and I knew that I wanted to work in this office. Really at the beginning of law school. In fact, I didn't move to go to some other law school because I so much wanted to work here in Mecklenburg and work here. And so that to answer your question, this is exactly, it was a plan, because it's hard to get into this office, believe it or not. People may not know that, but it's a little challenging, just to, not everybody can just walk over here and sign up. And so, yeah, I did want to do this specifically and here, and sort of the broader scope that we'll talk more about. Early on, that was kind of the larger plan, and it's still unfolding.
Yeah, it is, right. It's still unfolding, because every day these challenges keep presenting themselves, and we have to keep showing up for them. So let's talk about step court first, if that's okay. Step court for you. What has been the rewards? What have been the challenges? What is the step court experience? Because you represent other courts, you represent other cases. What is it about step court that brings the most reward, and what is it about step court that brings the most challenges?
Those are really good questions. I just want to answer emotionally first. I love it. I just love it, because, and then the slightly longer answer, I love representing people. It's what I wanted to do, because I knew that, like, it occurred to me that I could professionally mess with cops, for a living. Like, I can be in court, and the best way to view what a public defender is the police for the police. And when I say that, they're out there on the street, they're arresting people, they're doing all this stuff, but then they got to come and answer about why they did it and how they did it and was it legal. And that's kind of our role. We basically should have badges to police what they're doing, because that's what a pretrial motion is. That's what a court hearing is. That's what a trial is. But the problem with, not the problem, but the way it's set up in your, we were talking offline earlier about the criminal justice system and some of its flaws. Mm-hmm. It's designed so that any one of us at this office have so many clients. I'd love to do it, but it's, the contact time and the sort of emotional involvement and the frankly, the connection is pretty low when you have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. At this point, since I've been at this office, I've represented thousands of people. The contact time per person is really, really low. And so this is the long-winded answer. Step court affords me a chance to meet and to get to know a lot of people that I never would have known otherwise. And they're almost to a person. Everyone's different, but really great and interesting. We're all challenging, but I'm better for it, certainly. So that's the answer. We were talking about, treatment court and recovery court and how much we like it. And it occurred to me early on when I was here that all of criminal justice is punitive.
Mm-hmm.
That's its design, that's its nature, and that's not even an open secret. I mean, that's literally how it's designed. The only exception to that I am aware of is the recovery court model.
Mm-hmm.
It is rehabilitative, and that's a recognized concept in just in general, but even in the law, it's the only carve out in criminal justice that I'm aware of that is actually designed from the beginning, as lawyers would say, ab initio, to meet people where they are and to have some alternative. And it's not perfect, and I have lots of things I would change about even that, but to be really long-winded, those are the things that I like about it. The challenges are just when not everybody's on the same page. I mean, as we were all eloquently discussing earlier,
Mm-hmm.
it's a team effort. I mean, and that's what makes it work, but that's also what's challenging about it, because if somebody, there's a lot of us, but if somebody's tired or over a certain person or something like this, that can be hard, because I don't get, no single person gets to just say, everyone stop, I'd like to make a decision, let's just do it my way. That's just not how it works. And so that's the hard part, because I often don't think people are doing what they should be doing. I'd like to have the executive last word, but I'm not, the judge, I'm not whatever else. So you have to work together, and that can be a challenge.
Yeah, it definitely can be at times, and I thank you for that. I also thank you for the expressed opinion that the criminal justice system works the way it's supposed to. It is set up literally to punish crime and to house those who are being punished, and that's really the bottom line. And so, oftentimes we say that the criminal justice system is broke, and actually, it's one of the best things that works. It's just that it works against people, but it does work. And so when we see recovery court inserted into that system, it creates hope for those people in that court, and it would be absolutely great, right? Best case scenario if all courts were set up like recovery court. Adam, when you talk about some of the flaws, because there are so many great things, which is why the three of us love the vehicle of recovery court, and there are some flaws. One of the flaws is the bias that people bring to the table. And after the execution of George Floyd, on our Wellness Chronicles, we began having conversations with our judges from court. And there was such a move for people to address and to spend time discussing and talking about implicit bias, the bias that was brought forth, and we could see it in the criminal justice system. Some of our judges were some of the leaders in being able to create open dialogue and conversation. I want to ask you, as my friend and as a member of recovery court team, have you had to address your bias? Did you, when you came in, has court awakened some things in you to be able to help you shift gears as far as how you see the system, or how you see people, or how you deliver your job? Also, in that same question, how do we address the bias that we can find at the table? So first, you personally, what have you had to address, look at, come to grips with as far as bias as an attorney?
Me personally, I grew up in a small town, a really sort of poor small town in Northern California that was just farming and just agrarian. And there were very few Black people, if we're just going to talk honestly about stuff. It was just basically all white people, and the Hispanics who worked in the fields and things like that. I grew up pretty sheltered from a lot of that stuff. I moved to Charlotte around when I was 18, and so there was a cultural learning curve that I am personally still going through. I think the thing that was most brought home for me during this last year, through this work, because I would like to think of myself as being pretty progressive and pretty thoughtful, whatever. But in the midst of seeing that, I think for the first time, I was able to empathize, to begin the process of empathizing with what Black people and brown people in this country have gone through. I realize now and am realizing more and more all the time just how good I have it. And, that's painful to sort of realize, recognize that even things that, are challenging, I have benefited greatly from the inherent privilege in how I was born. And I think the thing that has been driven home the most for me, and the thing that I've been working on the most with myself, about myself, over the last year, professionally. I mean, the sort of second part of that question was just like, what have I seen, or how to combat that in court, or was that sort of what you were asking?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one, because it isn't a surprise, and it isn't a coincidence that my office only represents indigent people, like statutorily. That's what we do, and the overwhelming race of people that we represent are Black and brown people, and so it's a little bit tough to know how to deal with that. My best approach has always been, and will continue to be, advocating for each and every person. I have this little saying that I have, or this mantra that I have for every single client, that my goal is to get the very best outcome for that person, and to do anything that I can. Sometimes that's not a lot, but I mean, raising these issues when I can, speaking about them, bringing them up, not being silent when I want to, when it's easier to. Those are the kinds of things that I attempt to do. But it is challenging, because it's almost invisible because of the nature of the criminal justice system. I mean, it's almost invisible because it's so ubiquitous.
Yeah, I have to at times, and thank you for that. We often sort of put a spotlight on the implicit bias of the white community when we're talking about court. We want to talk about the criminal justice system specifically. But I've had to, just in my moment right now, I also coming into court, because I, again, will say I hate court as a Black man. I had to give recovery court a chance. I had to be able to sit at the table and understand that I was bringing my own bias, and I was meeting with people who love people like I do, right? Who did not have my background, or who did not have my skin color, or was not in my socioeconomic class or ranking, but who still had the heart to be able to bring change. And there was something that Aaron Wells, had to address as far as the bias that I brought in, thinking that it was something that only others had. And so I like to always be able to have these conversations about bias. And I'm always interested in the revelations we have that allow us to be more impactful. So I really appreciate your answer on that. Before I turn it over to Lisa Kaye for a few minutes, and she checks in with our chat community and our community, and she gives us her Lisa-isms and her Lisa takes, which I'm waiting on. When we come back out of that, Adam, I want to shift gears and be able to talk about the unspoken trauma, right, that our folks go through, that is many times not addressed in their legal situations. When we're looking at the crime itself, but not looking at the underlying factors that created the atmosphere or the situation that we find many of the people that we serve and that we meet with in recovery courts, and the traumas and the sometimes undiagnosed or unaddressed mental challenges and mental illness and mental unwellness that is so connected to decisions and choices that are made. So I want to come back with that. Lisa Kaye, if you would, good friend, sidekick, let's talk to our community, and you talk to us, Lisa Kaye.
All right. Well, we got a lot of people chiming in tonight, and we got some of our bestest buddies in the world. Miss Roberta is in the house. Of course, Karen says, welcome, Adam. And our famous Miss Kristen Brown of PRN. She really loved what you said. Let me get back here. I lost my place. She loved the answer that you gave, Adam, about police for the police, bringing awareness to that. And Miss Karen wanted to also comment your comments that she loved it, that she is better because of step court. She is one of our champions and co-workers, but she is like so many of us have experienced step court on the step court side. And she is a champion, and that court really set her, gave her the chance to heal from trauma. Things were addressed, and I can't wait for us to have that conversation. And I know Karen's going to chime in on that, because some of the things that our folks really put our folks in these positions aren't ever addressed. And when they are, it is beautiful. It really is beautiful. Let's see. We also have Karen also wanted to say that her husband was going through the system. He had to learn the curve too. And so I completely understand that. So learning that curve, people are resonating with that. People are saying recovery courts is in the house. Amanda Martin's on with us. Definitely a champion for recovery court, going off and now she's doing some other things with PRN as a director now, but that's where she cut her teeth when she came to PRN with her lived experience, and really helped set that stage for those who would come after her to work in that court. So we appreciate that, Amanda. Let's see. We also have Adam looking really attorney-like tonight. That comes from Amanda Martin. Of course it does. Absolutely. But we know we've also seen Adam without that attorney look. I think he is kind of like, not kind of like, he is like a PRN staff and recovery champions. We can dress the part that we need to dress. But when we are out in our community and we are working one-on-one, we do what we need to do, take the tie off and become a part of our community, and not so much what we look like in the courtroom. It's a part that we play, but it doesn't speak to who we are and what our heart's about. So Adam, that's a little dig on you tonight from Miss Amanda Martin. You'll have to get her next time you see her. But yeah, we got a lot of people sending hearts and loves and great conversation. So I think our next piece too, when we start talking about the trauma, we're going to see some comments and some emotion about that. And I'm looking forward to that. Adam, I really appreciate the risk. You mentioned some of the decisions you were making about law school and where you wanted to go. That you actually said risky. You used that word risky, and tonight is risky. When we, as folks who love people like we do and are in positions that we can help navigate, but also help bring awareness to the system, try to help navigate the system, it is risky. We always want to represent, but we also have a heart for people. And I appreciate you just kind of putting out there. Seeing through the eyes of an attorney is, we all need to stop and think about that. You know, those of us who work in court, we see lots of attorneys. Those of us who've been on the other side of the fence, have seen attorneys and work. So we all have our different perspectives, and it's a love-hate thing sometimes, maybe. I don't know. But tonight, I think getting to see through your eyes, I really want to chime in on the trauma piece, Aaron. That's where my heart is, and that's where my lived experience is. So I want to, if you'll give me an opportunity to kind of see how Adam addresses that and what our folks are saying. We also have Amanda says Adam is one of the best people I have had the pleasure of collaborating with. So she's making sure she's good with you, Adam. He was a big part of destigmatizing the criminal justice system.
Yes.
Amen to that. Thank you. And we also have Miss Courtney Lushbaum in the house tonight saying, hey, I'm double trouble graduate of Recovery Court. Yes, twice. I grew in so many areas as a result of the program and my wonderful supports. So much love to my people.
Yeah.
Recovery Court twice. And that's my girl. And what a testimony, not only for her work, but to the testimony of the courts and what everybody's doing there. Let's see anything new. Mecklenburg County Recovery Court support. Check this out. So a shout out to them to check this out. And we got a lot of hearts and love. So you guys keep chiming in because there's going to be a lot more to talk about as we roll through. Absolutely.
Thank you, Lisa Kaye. And you held on, Lisa, because I know as we dig in for the next conversation about trauma and mental health, you jump in like double dutch. You get your rhythm and jump on in. So, Adam, many of the cases, many of the people we serve, many of the situations, you and I have talked about this on many occasions, right? The unaddressed issues of the underlying traumas that our people deal with. It's easy to look at the crime that a person is accused of. It's tougher to look at the circumstances of his life or her life that they came from. And it's easy to remove or subtract or remove them from those circumstances so that we can enact law, but it's impossible to separate a person from their circumstance. And so we find that these circumstances blanket our folks with trauma. It's hard to sit and talk with someone whose crime has to do with the selling of an illegal substance, but when you dig and you peel back, you realize this person has been entrenched in generational poverty for so long, and somehow there must be a level playing field where I can feed my family too. Adam, let's talk about the trauma that you witness and that you see in the population that we serve.
Let's do it.
So for you, when we look at the mental health, do you find that the absence of, in honesty, there's just not enough at the table, any table? Do you find that the absence of sufficient services, for the people that we serve, that we're selling our people short? We're not giving them everything they need to truly succeed as they face and come through the criminal justice system.
Yeah. Yes. And I think that's pretty, and it's a good question, and it needs to be talked about. But I think that's like, sadly, that's an obvious answer. There are not enough resources. The older I get, the more I realize, and it almost is like overkill, but I think that almost everything can go back to trauma. If you really talk to people, if you really look at what's motivating what they're doing, it just always seems to be something, that there's something underpinning and underlying those sorts of things. If you believe the statistics, somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 60% of people walking around undiagnosed with something, some sort of what current psychiatry would call a mental health disorder. But all of that's even, somewhat dynamic and fluid, and is changing and evolving. and some of those labels and some of that stigma, I think needs to keep evolving. But yeah, there aren't enough services, and I don't, this new legislation that's being proposed, that begins to address some of that, because it begins to collect data, and the big enemy of knowing things is keeping things in the closet, keeping things quiet. If you don't know about something, if most people don't know about it, they'll think it's fine, and they just won't see that it's out there. And so yeah, I mean, that is a big issue. That's a big problem. Yeah.
IVCs. And so when we're looking at people, and sometimes there's the disconnect in thought, right? That this category is here and this category is there, when in reality we're talking about marginalized people. So they all fall under that spectrum somewhere. When we look at the issue of IVCs, just taking someone and locking them up in a whole nother system, right? Not calling it the criminal justice system, but in reality, it serves the same purpose. Adam, from a personal perspective, and then from a perspective as in your career as an attorney, how do you look at IVCs? And you mentioned the legislation that we're getting passed, and that's coming through our legislature. What are we going to be able to do as a people with this horrific, this terrible injustice that is done to people on a daily basis?
Yeah. So personally, I think it's awful. I think it's inhumane. I think it's really terrible. Nobody that knows the history of mental illness and importantly, our treatment of it in this country has anything good to say about it at all. It's not. I mean, this stuff is known that we've done really awful things to people in the name of psychiatry and those sorts of things. We have, in some ways, they're ultimately marginalized, because they're still mostly voiceless. Like when folks go, I mean, even in my office, there's only two of us that do it, and nobody knows about it. Folks who go in there don't have any, the hospital's allowed to lock the doors, to force meds, to do all these sorts of things, not because it's mandatory or not because it's necessary, but because we don't prioritize, we don't allocate our resources as a community. You can pick whatever level, locally, state, nationally. We don't allocate anything like what we can, to help folks avoid this whole process. The Supreme Court and I'm not going to go on a big long thing, and I'm not even that big of a law nerd, but
take your time.
Once the Supreme Court said, in a case O'Connor v. Donaldson, that this is the limit. And in a lot of ways, it was a really watershed moment. It was a good thing, because it said you can't just throw anyone in the mental hospital. You have to have criteria, and those criteria, essentially, we all know them: risk of harming yourself, risk of harming somebody else, and history of mental illness. Those are what meet criteria. But the problem is, and we're not going to get into like a political, sort of resource allocation history, but in the Reagan era, that stuff was cut, and the money went away for a lot of the state hospitals to try to channel them back into the communities, and everybody took those two things, those criteria, and said, well, if that's what we can do, that's what we're going to do. And so now it's basically all the models in all the states are, if people are having a mental health emergency, and let's just really be clear about what an IVC is. IVCs stand for involuntary commitment, and they're exactly that. And it's essentially a 911 call made by somebody, a loved one, somebody else, that this person's having a mental health 911 type of event. That's really what it is. And there are built into that statutorily protections that are supposed to, at each checkpoint, weed out people that aren't really in crisis. But as we all know, systems become entrenched and they become a little bit rubber stampy. And so basically, if a petition is made, the odds are that person's going to end up in a few days at the hospital, and then they're just there unless and until, you know, we can have a hearing or the doctor discharges them, because of the nature of the way the system's set up. The number of people that need acute emergency mental health care is enormous. It doesn't have to be, but because that's the system, that's where they all go. And so bed space is incredibly limited because, I mean, there's so many layers to this, but Medicaid and lots of other reasons that none of it really works. And so at the end of the day, we're just stuck with a docket of hundreds of people that somebody has, you know, made a petition and said that they're sick and they're you know, because of these things, this person needs to be here. And so that's what that is. It doesn't need to be like that. It shouldn't be like that, but that's how we allocate our resources. I think Frederick Douglass said you can really take the temperature of a society, but just by looking at their jails. And I think you could do the exact same thing with how they treat people who are sick like that. It's not a pretty picture, and it's not. I don't think it's anything anybody would be proud of. But that is what we do. That's how we deal with them, and that certainly has to change, and we're working on changing it.
Some of the things that are, and thank you for that, Adam. So some of the things that are that's happening with the change, some of the bills that are trying to be passed, the advocacy that is out there, the conversations that are out there. Adam, from your perspective, and this is a hot topic for me, which I'll talk about later on another, but from a media perspective, how are we conveying from, and again, both personal and from your professional opinion, how are we conveying, how are we portraying, how are we showing mental health locally? How are we showing mental health state, national? What is it that we're showing that, one, creates this public safety alarm when we talk about mental health, and what are these stigmas that we're watching being placed on men and women who are carrying the label of those that are mentally unwell?
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer to that is simply that how we're showing it is the same way we show everything, which is, you know, we have news media, but I don't really think that's accurate. I think there are companies that get clicks and likes and subscribers and viewers by telling real small slices of real marginal stories that are very salacious and that get a lot of people to watch. And so you focus on, you know, the one person that had some crazy outburst, or you basically cherry pick, you know, real bad cases and blast those out as though that's typical, when in reality, you know, and then that creates its own emergency, and then everybody thinks, oh, the whole system's broken, and that's just kind of how that's my perspective on how I see it being portrayed. I'm not sure what any layperson, you know, how they view it. That's what I mean, but that's what I see when I turn on the news. There's never a substantive conversation about people with, you know, how we treat people, for instance. There's never a substantive conversation about better ways or alternatives or having co-responders or not having police go to people's houses when they're having a crisis moment or something like this. It's usually just these more dramatic tales that really skew people's perspective and just make people think, I think, oh yeah, this is a huge problem, and we need to act swiftly and decisively and get them out of society as quickly as possible. When the truth is, and the ironic reality surrounding the whole thing is, if there were more upfront investment, the whole thing would cost so much less. I can't quote my source for this little piece of data that I'm about to say, but I understand that it costs about $2,500 per bed per day for folks in a behavioral health unit. That's a lot of money. I mean, they're always full, and you and I are spending that. There's a lot of tax dollars and that kind of thing that goes to fund that when people don't have insurance, and so the irony of the whole thing is, if it were redesigned and if humane non-reactive policies were put into place and people had options, people had education, people knew how to manage if they do have a history of mental health issues, because let's also be clear, people do have psychotic events, and people have histories of mental illness, and people do have these things, but that does not mean that the only response or the only avenue is sending some cops out to drag them to the magistrate's office and then over to the behavioral health unit at Novant or Behavioral Health Charlotte. There are certainly other ways to do that, and we can talk about those. But yeah, I mean, those are my views on how it gets portrayed and how we deal with it.
And I thought that was important, because we just some viewers be able to come on and not really understand and know, and all we know is what we see, and to be able to give some of the background. Lisa Kaye, jump in if you don't mind. And Lisa, I know trauma is such a drive for you. It's actually how we met. You bringing some trauma understanding to PRN as we became a trauma-informed organization. Lisa Kaye, jump in there.
Yeah. We don't have enough time, but that's that is definitely something that's near and dear to me, to keep the word out and to educate folks, just within my own family. I have children, and including myself, but I have a child right now that's currently incarcerated, and he is suffering mental health, substance use disorder from 19 years of documented trauma. And so for me as a parent to just sit down and write it all out, for me to see it was very traumatizing. Aaron helped me with it, and I think it was a little traumatizing to him. And it really because we can say it, but when we sit down and actually time it out, if you had the time, Adam, our justice system had the time to sit down and ask the story keeper of the family, right?
Yeah.
Which I'm the story keeper of my family. I'm the trauma keeper in my family. I'm the mama. And so for somebody to actually sit down and show the events in this person's life, to actually have the time to read it, digest it, what could that do? I did that for my child not long ago. We're waiting for that letter. That letter did help go to the next stage. Instead of just sending him, they decided to send it up and let a judge decide, because it's very complex. It was very publicized. Most of the trauma he had been through, his whole entire family. So we're holding out hope that there's treatment for his mental health, for his addiction. All of his crimes lead straight to that. Self-medication, right? All of that. And so we're hopeful that he will get something different. He's made the decision that he wants something different. Now let's see if our system can help him by making a different decision. So for you, when you hear that about a story keeper, someone that can give a timeline, because a mother's voice is pretty powerful in the courtroom. That's been my experience. It's been very helpful. Just to give a timeline, what does that say to you, and what did you automatically think about as I said that?
Oh, I mean, so much, and you're right. We don't have enough time. I'm no expert. Trauma informs, or trauma, things that people have gone through. I just want to speak simply. Things that people have gone through underpins almost everything that makes us who we are. And so if those are rough, if those are bad, if those are really traumatic events, and they don't have to be, the science tells us it doesn't have to be, all the like the worst things you can think of. It can be, passive neglect. We all have it. That's the thing that I don't think a lot of people appreciate enough. We all have it. We all are laboring under it. It's just a question of recognizing it, and dealing with it. If our court, to answer your question, it is powerful. People should listen to it. If our court system did anything like listen to that kind of thing on anything like a regular basis, anything like geographically consistently, then it would be an entirely different system. But I fear that even in that circumstance, there's still a lot of folks in this country all over the place that don't quite even buy it. They just say, oh, that's an excuse, or just, quit, take responsibility and these sorts of things. And that's not true. And that's never going to be true. We are just, we're just a big puzzle made up of all these parts, and they inform everything that we do. But even if that were all really well understood and acted on by the criminal justice system, I don't think that would be enough, just because there's deep racial bias in this country, and that's not anything like resolved. And I think that all of these things need to heal together in order for a lot of these systems to begin to function better. I think that's no excuse not to work towards it. I think that everybody that cares about this stuff is doing as much as they can. But I think it's important also just to recognize that all these things need to happen.
Thank you, Adam. Hearing you talk and hearing things that I've said, things that Aaron have said, the walk we've walked with you personally in recovery court and different situations. We've got some of our folks that are graduates from the step court that were pretty significant cases. I would like to hear how you stay in the game, how you take good care of yourself, because you are drenched in this each and every day, hearing the stories, not only from the person that you are supporting, but from their mamas, from their grandmothers, from their fathers, who are trying desperately. So you are hearing the desperation cries of folks who are still hurting and are just torn up to see or to think about their person being somewhere that they can't love on them and make sure they're okay. So how do you take care of yourself to stay in the game, to walk the walk, to keep advocating and hanging in there with Aaron and all of the rest of us in recovery court? How do you do it? What do you do to self-care and stay in the game?
Yeah, my instinct is to make a joke, but the truth,
okay, laughter.
The truth is, it's hard. I mean, there's anybody that says it's not is just not really being honest. It's really, really hard. This last year has been really weird with the pandemic. And so we all kind of got to drop back a little bit, family, other good people, your own little village that you make, with colleagues, professional. that's what keeps me sane at work, and doing this work, because you don't have to agree with every single thing somebody else says to find some really core common values and things that you're all working toward. So I mean, professionally, like, just people that I can have really safe conversations with, that's critically important for me and my work, because it is traumatic. I mean, I have trauma just from doing this work, but I do feel like a position that I'm in, and the privilege that I have, I owe it, and I'd like to owe it to do my very best and to work as hard as I can, because there are people who would love nothing more than to be in my position. So I would never complain for a single second, but that doesn't change the fact that it's hard, and that it's it does take, I don't care who you are, it takes it out of you to do this work, and to see, the concept of micro traumas. These aren't even micro, this is macro, like seeing entire lives over and over and over ruined from little petty things, but living life sentences in dribs and drabs, just because they're going to keep getting arrested. I mean, they're going to. I don't get arrested. I haven't been. I've never. I mean, it's been a long time. I don't get in trouble for stuff. I just walk around and I don't worry about that. Not because of anything I'm doing, but just because of how this country is, and that's not the case for everybody. And so that's hard to see. I mean, that's a tough thing to realize. And we're making the sausage in this office, and across the street, the DA's office. I mean, it's all happening, and to see the inner workings of it is heartbreaking. Just, these are real people, every single one of them. Every file I have of hundreds in my office, and I'm one of 80 people here.
Wow.
The numbers are enormous, and it's tough, and so it is hard. I try to, when I'm not at work, I try not to think about as much as I can, but of course I give my cell phone number to everybody, and so I do get a lot of calls, but I try to have carve-outs. My kids are getting older, so they know what I do, but for a long time they didn't even know I had a job. I try to keep certain things a little bit compartmentalized, and I just try to do my best.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Awesome stuff, because we need you to stay in the game with us, for sure.
Yeah, working on it.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Lisa Kaye. I want to tell you, Adam, we generally say at the end, we're putting the plane in the hangar, but since it's summertime, we're putting the yacht in the dock. We're seasonal with our endings.
That's right.
I want to tell you on this platform, thank you. I want to thank you for all of the people who you've helped. And I just know personally a lot of them that didn't take the time to say thank you. I want to say thank you for them. There are a lot of people who have found hope when hope evaded them. And many times, and it's not intentional ungratitude. It's just that sometimes you don't know who to thank. You're just happy that you got through it. But I've watched you grind for people, and for a lot of people that look like me. And I want to be able to say to you, thank you so very much. Thank you for showing up week after week, day after day. And you talked about giving out your cell number. You messed around and let me start giving people your cell number. So, and I'll be honest with you, and Lisa can attest to this. People come to us with tough stuff. I say, hold on, I'm gonna reach out to Adam or Stephanie. I'm gonna reach out to one of my folks and see if we can help you with that. Thank you for making yourself available. I know that's not the easiest thing. You do have a family. You do have other interests in life. You have a full life, but you've decided that a lot of your life would be given to the lives of others. And so thank you for that. Thank you for making yourself available for PRN and the people that we serve. And sometimes we don't have the answers. And my easy go-to is, let me call Adam. Any last words for us, Adam, as we put the yacht in the dock?
No, thank you. This was a blast. Sorry, it's so dour, but there are fun things too, and you know, there are a lot of perks to my job. But I mean, you know, it's nice to be able to do stuff professionally, like get paid and help people. That just feels good. That's a win-win.
Yeah, we can attest to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I really had fun. This is good.
Oh man, we appreciate it. Lisa Kaye, any last words? And I have some for you, Lisa Kaye. Here's one. Welcome desk.
Oh gosh. Well, yes, it's always my job to talk about the welcome desk. But yeah, it's an important part of PRN. So if you heard something on here live or you watching this later and something's on your heart, you need some support, you want to figure out how you can talk to Mr. Adam, call the welcome desk. Kim, our person who answers the phone, she's also a champion in recovery. She'll make sure she gets your question or your concerns to us so we can make sure you're supported. The number's there, 704-390-7709.
All right, Lisa, I know I didn't give you anything for Christmas, so I'm going to give you this. If you would, our warm line.
Yeah. Well, this is one of our newest, well, it's not new anymore, about a year and some change old now. We started the warm line during the pandemic as a way to stay connected to folks who are in distress because of the pandemic or for whatever reasons. And so this is a 24/7 free confidential line that is run by PRN's peer support specialist. And they are there to listen. They've been there. They're people of significant lived experiences. They're not there to solve your problems. They're there to walk with you, offer their own lived experience and resources that we have here in our community, and just a really soft place to land, just to be free to be who you are and allow somebody to listen who really cares. So that's 833-390-7728. Write it down, pass this on, and give that a call if you are in need or you just need to talk. No matter what it's about, just need somebody to talk to. This is a great place to call. Yep.
Thank you so much, Lisa Kaye. This is Through the Eyes of Others with Aaron and Lisa Kaye and with Adam Owensby tonight. We just wanted to check in with conversations to be able to see life through the eyes of others. The conversation gets a little tough sometimes when we look at some of the injustice, but there is hope. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's called the people who show up to care and to help. And I'm on the screen with two of them right now. Thank you so much, Adam, for your time. We love you. I'll be seeing you very soon. I'll be hanging out with you a little more. Lisa Kaye, my sidekick, much love to you. Have a great evening. And listen, y'all, today is a good day. It's a wonderful Wednesday. And if we get the grace to wake up tomorrow, let's make sure that we use it in the service of other people. We love you. See you next week, same time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.